have to go save for every page.
Oh, you were
How fun. Now I can just mark all sorts of stuff.
And it'll be on there.
Call you guys.
If you keep that, it'll be always on there.
Forever and a day.
That's right. Call it day.
Oh, how fun. Okay.
Benjamin Longmire working across the river.
Kaylin looks different.
Yeah, she does. Well, first off, she doesn't have glasses on,
That's probably it.
and her hair's all pulled back, which I've
Yeah.
never seen it like that, so who knows? Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. It's time for the January 16th meeting of the 2018 meeting of the Whitehall City Council to be called to order for the purpose of considering such matters that may come before it. I'm going to ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silence and remain standing for the pledge. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we move on with our agenda this evening, we're going to have Chris Rodriguez is going to be sworn in to office by his son, Chris. He's going to make it a family affair. Sure, right out front there. Right in the middle so we can throw stuff or what have you.
Raise your right hand. I, Chris Rodriguez, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state and the Charter and laws and ordinances of the City of Whitehall. I shall not be influenced by any consideration except that of merit and fitness in my appointment. That I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially, and in all other respects discharge the duties of the office City Council Ward 1 for the City of Whitehall, to which I have been elected as I shall answer unto God.
See you later. Bye-bye. Bye, guys and gals.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Thomason,
Here?
Hannah,
Here.
Heck,
Here.
Morrison, Bailey,
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Elmore. Here. President Graham.
Present.
Mr. President, I'd like to move to excuse the absent member.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Mr. Rodriguez to excuse the absent member. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Thomason,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Heck,
Here. Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Elmore. Yes.
All righty. We've all said here
Many times.
Yeah.
Very good.
Do. All right. Well,
Yes.
our next item is the approval of minutes for December 19, 2017, agenda and regular meeting, and the January 2nd, 2018 agenda and regular meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of December 19th and January 2nd.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Coniston, a second by Mr. Cantor for approval of the December and January minutes. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Thomason,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Elmore. Yes.
All right, the minutes have been approved. It's our first opportunity for poll public. If anyone would like to come forward, you will have up to 3 minutes to do so. Not to come forward, but to speak your piece. All right, we will move on to our standing committee reports, and we'll begin with Administration and Financial Management. Chairperson Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Administration and Financial Management did meet last Tuesday. Our minutes are on file, and we will meet again next Tuesday, sometime after 6:30 in the back room here.
All righty, thank you, sir. Our next committee is Community and Elder Advocacy. Chairperson Elmore.
Thank you, Mr. President. We met for the Community and Elder Advocacy Group. We discussed issues that pertain to how to be inclusive with name. The minutes are on file, and we will meet again next Tuesday after 6:30 in the back.
All righty, thank you. Next, we have Community Standards and Enforcement. Chairperson Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Community Standards and Enforcement met last Tuesday. Our minutes are on file, although we had nothing on the agenda. We'll meet next Tuesday sometime after 6:30.
All right, thank you, sir. Next, we have Economic Development. That's Chairperson Morrison. He's unable to attend the meeting this evening. However, that committee also met last Tuesday. Their minutes are on file, and they shall also meet again next Tuesday sometime after 6:30. That brings us to Infrastructure Maintenance and Services. Chairperson Heck.
Thank you, Mr. President. Infrastructure Maintenance and Service met last Tuesday. The minutes are on file. We will meet again next Tuesday in the back after 6:30.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Public Safety. Chairperson Coniston.
Thank you, President Graham. Public Safety met last week. Our minutes are on file. I asked Chief if he would go ahead and supply some information from the police, and he sent some wonderful stats. And if I could just kind of read you a few things that he did send me. He said that they just finished a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, and they put out an anti-theft program for businesses, and it was received very well. And then he gave some stats for 2017, and I think that these are so impressive here. He said, we finished 2017 with 20-year record lows in burglary and robbery, and lowest violent crime statistics since 2011. Another thing that I believe it was on the 12th, they swore in a new officer, Eric Runyon. He is from the Lorraine Police Department, and he says he brings a great deal of experience with him. And then he wanted everybody to know that the next town hall meeting would be February 15th. Quite impressive. Public Safety will meet again next week in the back sometime after 6:30.
All righty, thank you. Parks and Recreation. Chairperson Canner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Parks and Recreation met in the back last week. Our minutes are on file. We'll meet again in the back next week after 6:30.
All right, thank you, sir. Those are all the standing committee reports. We'll move on to our officials' reports, and we'll begin with our mayor, Ms. Kim Maggard.
Good evening. I would just like to ask council's consideration of Ordinance 3-2018 for passage on first reading, and also 4-2018, as well as 5-2018. Also, would just like to give an update on some items. House Bill 371 was introduced at the probably fall of 2017. It was voted out of the House committee today, and the reason that we should be concerned with House Bill 371 is that it's a bill that will stop any sort of property tax accrual and increase on residential properties that are to be developed. It could just be a piece of land, and a developer could buy it and say, I plan to develop this. Now, when this bill was first introduced, it was indefinitely. Then it was put down to 15 years. Then it was put down to 10 years, and now it's put down to 8 years. I will let you know that almost every public sector is against this, because what it does, it takes tax dollars away from cities and most of all school districts. And I know that the State Auditors Association, the County Commissioners Association, the School Boards Association, the Ohio Municipal League, many others are against this. And last week they stood in solidarity as this bill was being read. So now it's been voted out of committee. It will be voted on, and then if that passes, it'll go to the Senate for consideration. The reason why, as a municipality, we are against this bill is because it takes away local control, which seems to be the ongoing theme in the State House right now. The fact that without any permission or guidance from municipalities that they can put freezes on increases on land. They tried to do this last year or the year before in 2016 on business property, and that did not work. So we're trying to make sure that this doesn't happen again. You could have a great piece of land, and a developer will say, well, I'm going to develop it for residential purposes, but then maybe beside it there could be rezoning. Let's just, that could happen for business, and then all of a sudden that land should go up in value extremely high than what it currently is, but according to this bill, it will not. It'll just stay frozen at its current assessment of just land and nothing else. So we are against that. Also, as now I'm chair of the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission Policy Roundtable and attended a meeting today, and I will let you know that our county commissioners are very concerned about poverty rates in Franklin County because while the counties continue to grow, and almost every segment of the county, including Whitehall, we're doing great in economic development. The poverty rates are still continuing to climb. They're not going down, as you would expect. So I know they're going to be focusing on poverty, and also as a member of the Regional Policy Roundtable, I specifically asked that in our policy agenda that we focus on food insecurity in our next policy agenda, which will come up in 2019, 2020. We focus on infrastructure, we focus on clean air, we focus on education, we focus on housing, but we have not focused on food insecurity, and that's becoming very rampant throughout central Ohio. So that's one of the things that we'll be focusing on. Also, the Broad Street corridor, the city promised to put in $10,000 to help study the Broad Street corridor, how we can have better transportation, more efficient transportation come down that way. But also we need to focus on what kind of businesses we would want on the Broad Street corridor. Now, this is a county-wide study that will be going on, and in that we want to make sure that we have food stores that are accessible to our residents, in that they're not going to be out of the way and they're not going to be too expensive. So we want to make sure that we have medical facilities and also food facilities where people can go and get their needs taken care of. So that's all I have today. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. It sounds like the first item you talked about the freezing of the property value for tax reasons, sounds like another giveaway to the fat cats who don't need it, or they wouldn't have bought the property because they have the money to do that. And I guess the second comment I would have would be on your second comment regarding poverty. Apparently the city or the Franklin County Commissioners don't have any faith in the new tax plan that's come out, so we'll have to see how that all plays out. Mr. Bivens, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. The mayor didn't highlight this, but I'll just kind of echo with respect to what she said and really pat her on the back with respect to her progressive vision for the city. The commissioners are very concerned about poverty, and to the extent that they're concerned about it, our mayor is also concerned about it, to the extent that she not only sought out but has received to the tune of almost $736,000 that's going to go towards raising the quality of life of Whitehall residents. So for that, I know you didn't speak that specifically, but I do want to highlight that and make it very clear and plain. Secondarily, just with respect to the city attorney's office, I will be traveling to Tennessee tomorrow for a conference that is going to be hosted by the National Association of Counties. The forum is titled The Intersection of Health and Justice, Linking Systems and Improving Outcomes. The reason for this is also patting our mayor on the back with respect to her vision of obtaining the first and only grant that has been given by any county in the nation to facilitate a drug court in mayor's court. And so I saw that it would be an efficient use of my time to go highlight Whitehall, be a champion for our city with respect to that, and speak to some of these counties all across the nation that are looking for solutions to the opioid epidemic. Just some fun facts. If you want to title it as fun, it's really not a fun thing to speak out loud. But nationally, and this is a conservative estimate, through county jails, we're looking at approximately 2 million to 5 million people that are incarcerated through county jails on a yearly basis. A lot of those persons that are incarcerated in county jails, they had originally thought that those persons were had mental health issues. But what they're discovering is that a lot of those people have opiate addiction and have drug and alcohol addiction. And so that Whitehall is putting its foot forward to look at a strategic approach on how to handle that. It's commendable. And so with Franklin County also funding that, with Whitehall being the first pilot mayor's court for that, I'll get there in the next 3 days and see what the other counties are talking about, and I'll be certain to report that back when I get back. That is one thing. Next thing, just to highlight, with respect to the opiate addiction, I looked at our numbers today, and so that everyone knows in this room, my office still is actively engaged in nuisance abatement with respect to drug and alcohol, as well as incidents of violences in homes. We today have successfully litigated, I believe, 5 cases where we were able to abate the nuisance in private properties. The reason why I bring this up is because as you're speaking to your constituents, let them know that if they have a problem with their neighbor that's related to drug and alcohol, related to violence, let our office know. They can contact my office directly. I'll contact law enforcement. We'll run the numbers. And if it meets the criteria, we will file nuisance abatement actions and abate the nuisance. Even if that person is not a renter, they can actually own the home. And I have the statutory right to actually board up the house if they don't abate the nuisance. So that is a tool that we are using just to let our residents know that we're actively engaged in making sure that our neighborhoods are safe, and we'll do what we need to do that's necessary to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe. And then lastly, just to kind of bring us into a happy place, our mock court program, we have been moved to Licking County. So they will be going against Granville, Northridge, Whetstone, and a couple of other schools, but we will be slated to go to Licking County January the 26th. Our first trial will be at 9:30. Our second trial will be at 1:30. So I'm really excited about that. The kids they're just phenomenal kids. I really hope that if you don't get to see them in Licking County, I don't expect you to drive that. Hopefully we'll do something in the spring and back here in Mayor's Court again, so you'll get to see these kids, but they're phenomenal.
All right, well, thank you, sir. Well, next we'll hear from our city auditor, Mr. Dan Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Friday I attended a meeting on the TANF, the temporary assistance for needy persons. They were showing us how to administer the grant, but we also got a really in-depth introduction to the program. So I'm going to piggyback on the mayor and ask for consideration on ordinance 4 to be passed today too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, next we'll hear from our treasurer, Mr. Steve Quinzel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no official report tonight.
All righty, thank you, sir. Well, the following officials' reports have been filed in the council office since our last meeting. We have the auditor's expense report for December 2017, the auditor's bank report for December 2017, the auditor's statement of cash position report for December 2017. We also have the auditor's revenue report for December 2017, and we have the treasurer's investment report for December 2017. We've also received the treasurer's activity by fund report for December 2017, the treasurer's fund reconciliation report for December 2017, and finally the mayor's report to council for December 2017. Those are all the officials' reports we have this evening. We'll move on to our communications, petitions, and claims. We do have the two items listed on the agenda. They are the minutes for the December 6, 2017 meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and we have the agenda for the January 10, 2018 meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Those are all the communications, petitions, and claims we have. We'll move on to our verification of copies. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll on whether each member of council was given a copy of each item of legislation listed on the agenda prior to the meeting and including any add-on legislation.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
All right, we'll move on with our ordinances and resolutions for the evening. As usual, we will begin with our third readings. We have first up is ordinance 122, 2017. It's to amend the city income tax code and adopt sections 718.80 through 718.95 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance 122, 2017, and move to table until February the 20th, 2018.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Mr. Cantor to table ordinance 122, 2017 to the February 20th, 2018 meeting. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
All righty. Ordinance 122, 2017 has been tabled. It's the only item we have under third reading. Under second reading, we have ordinance 1, 2018. It's an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute necessary conveyance documents to acquire property from H. Eugene Fletcher located at 51 through 91 South Hamilton Road, Whitehall, Ohio. That ordinance is being read by title only. It's the only item we have under second reading. Under first reading, we have ordinance 2, 2018. It's amending section 184.3 of the codified ordinances titled definitions and declaring an emergency. That ordinance is being read by title only. Next up, we have ordinance 3, 2018. It's amending 161.11C1 of the codified ordinances of the city of Whitehall, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance 3, 2018, move for suspension of rules.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. Bailey, a second by Ms. Coniston for introduction and suspension of rules on ordinance 3, 2018. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
The rules have been suspended on ordinance 3, 2018.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Bailey, second by Ms. Coniston for adoption of ordinance 3, 2018. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Ordinance 3, 2018 has been adopted. Our next ordinance is 4, 2018. It's authorizing the creation of the Temporary Assistance to Needy Families Program Grant Fund, appropriating $736,783.34 from unappropriated monies in the TANF, I would rather say the words, Program Grant Fund to the TANF Program Grant Expense Account and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I would like to move for suspension of all rules on
On
ordinance
4/2018.
04, yeah, 218.
All right.
Second?
I have a motion by Ms. Elmore and a second by Mr. Cantor for introduction and suspension of all rules on ordinance 4/2018. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
The rules have been suspended on ordinance 4/2018.
I move for adoption of ordinance 004-2018.
Second?
I have a motion by Ms. Elmore and a second by Mr. Cantor for adoption of ordinance 4/2018. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Ordinance 4/2018 has been adopted. Our next ordinance is 5/2018. It's approving and making a supplemental appropriation of $44,000 from unappropriated monies in the general fund to the transfer expense account, approving a fund transfer in the amount of $44,000 from the transfer expense account to the accrued benefits reserve fund and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance 5/2018, move for suspension of all rules.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. Bailey, second by Mr. Rodriguez for introduction and suspension of all rules on ordinance 5/2018. Questions or comments?
I'd just like to thank Dan for sending us a copy of this legislation so we could understand it. Thank you, Dan.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
The rules have been suspended on ordinance 5/2018.
To adopt?
Second?
Motion by Mr. Bailey, second by Mr. Rodriguez for adoption of ordinance 5/2018. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Ordinance 5/2018 has been adopted. Those are all the ordinances we have this evening. However, we do have several resolutions. We begin with Resolution 3/2018. It's resolving to approve then and now certificates and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce Resolution 3/2018, move for suspension of rules.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Ms. Heck for introduction and suspension of all rules on Resolution 3/2018. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
The rules have been suspended on Resolution 3/2018.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bailey, second by Ms. Heck for adoption of Resolution 3/2018. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Resolution 3/2018 has been adopted. Our next resolution is 4/2018. It's resolving to approve then and now certificates and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce Resolution 4/2018, move for suspension of rules.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. Bailey, second by Mr. Cantor for introduction and suspension of rules on Resolution 4/2018. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Resolution 4/28, the rules have been suspended on Resolution 4/2018.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to adopt.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Bailey, second by Mr. Cantor for adoption of Resolution 4/2018. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Resolution 4/2018 has been adopted. Our next resolution is 5/2018. It's authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services for the purpose of providing services to temporary assistance to needy families and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend the rules for Resolution 005-2018.
Second?
Second.
Give it to Bob. He was
All right, I have a
used to
motion
doing
by
that.
Ms. Elmore and a second by
looking
Mr.
around.
And a second by Mr. Bailey for introduction and suspension of rules on Resolution 5, 2018. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
The rules have been suspended on Resolution 5, 2018.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we, Resolution 005-2018 for adoption.
Second.
So a motion by Ms. Elmore and a second by Mr. Bailey for adoption of Resolution 5, 2018. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll. Thanks.
Yes.
Yes.
Heck? Yes. Bailey?
Yes.
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
All right, Resolution 5, 2018 has been adopted. It's the last item of legislation we have this evening. It's our second opportunity for poll public. If anyone would like to come forward, now would be your opportunity, and you will have up to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Gerald Dixon, 3877 Doney Street. First of all, congratulations on your swearing-in ceremony to Mr. Rodriguez. I wanted to laud the mayor and the city attorney for the things that they talked about earlier. You know, there's a lot of issues in society these days that don't seem to be getting fixed and sometimes seem like they're getting worse. So any and all efforts you, the city, are making towards those things, I applaud. I also wanted to express concern with the city attorney because he talked about abating nuisances and even boarding up people's houses. I would like to hear more about that, not necessarily here. You can certainly contact me, but because I'm concerned about rights, civil liberties, and the like, as I'm sure you are as well. But as you all know, it's one of my large concerns is civil liberties. And so I would be curious to hear more about that.
Certainly.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward at this time? All right, we will move on to Community Date Board.
On the 15th of February, as Karen had said earlier, there will be a Safer Community meeting hosted by the Chief of Police. It will be at New Life Church over here on Yearling Road, and I believe it starts at 6, but I'm not sure.
Yes, 6 o'clock.
Yes. So I know that's coming up.
And January 26th, if you don't have your tickets to attend the dinner for the Education Foundation will be putting on, you can still purchase tickets over at the Whitehall City Schools Administration Building. Hopefully you'll be able to join us on the 27th during the basketball game as our new Hall of Fame people are honored. Dan Miller being one, and also our very own past council member Van Gregg, and also Judge Julie Lynch will be honored on that day. So hopefully you can come out.
Also, on the night before at the Whitehall Education Foundation dinner, we have some people here who will be honored. Joanna Heck is one. Also, our school resource officer, Mark Showalter. I believe that Katie Quinsel, who may be related to down here, and she's a Park and Rec commissioner, is being honored. And there's one more. I can't remember. But so, Lenora Miller, also from Senior Citizens. So I just want to say that it's going to be a great dinner, and then the next night is the basketball induction for the Hall of Fame.
Who else has something for Community Date Board? Well, for all you gentlemen sitting out there, and I'm including everyone, except for the ladies, don't forget Valentine's Day. For First warning. Coming up.
First
Don't say,
warning.
I forgot, because that won't fly. Who else has something? All right, we'll move on to poll council, and we'll begin with Ms. Coniston.
I just want to thank you for coming out, and hopefully we'll see you in a couple weeks, and the weather will get a little warmer and less snow.
All right, Mr. Cantor.
I have no comment tonight, Mr. President, thank you.
All right, Ms. Heck.
Mr. President, thank you everybody for coming out, and I did want to recognize what a great job the city service workers did on the streets. It was really nice because I had to drive all of my children everywhere, even though it was snowing like crazy. And thank you to the first responders who had to still work during it. That's all.
All right, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for coming out tonight, braving the cold, and that's all I have.
All right, our newly sworn-in council person, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for the huge crowd this evening. Madam Mayor, what was the House bill that you were talking about earlier?
371.
Okay. One thing that astounds me is that the legislators that are working on these bills, whether in the Senate or the House, all started, almost all of them, started on our level. Have they forgotten?
And they
Have
said a
forgotten?
leopard can't change its spots.
I mean, have they forgotten how difficult it is to you know, for finding money sources?
Well,
I mean,
the former mayor of Grove City is probably one of the worst offenders.
Cheryl Grossman. Wow.
Really?
I mean, so I guess anybody who knows any of the legislators, give them a call. I still know a good number of them, and I think I'm just going to have to, you know, have you guys forgotten? Shame on you. Shame on you. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Elmore.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to congratulate everybody that's being recognized, those that are here and those that are not, on a wonderful job and a great job, representative of Whitehall and what you do. I want to thank our electeds because they make Whitehall what it is and us operating as a team. I am so looking forward to us continuing to work together. And also, just to piggyback on what Councilman Rodriguez said, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to reach out to our elected officials and let them know the impact that this has. One of the ways that we can do that is to just put something on our Facebook, just kind of highlighting all the legislators that are backing this bad legislation, and shame on them. So we just need to make everybody aware of that, and then possibly some of our constituents and the people that are in the other, you know, our community will make contact with them. The more people that contact, the better. And so thank you for the information, and I will do my due diligence to reach out to them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, you already went, didn't you? All right, well, in relation to what Mr. Rodriguez said, in a roundabout kind of way, I'm a firm believer that well, let me put it this way. Tax relief that you get from the federal government, that you get from then you get it from the state. Where does it all end up? Who ends up paying the bill in the end? It all comes down to it's all brought down to the city, to where we have to go back as elected officials in the city and try to explain to those who live in the city why you have to raise taxes. And so at some point in time, if people don't, from the top all the way down to the bottom, if people don't understand that you don't, unless you have fair and equitable, and that's the federal, the state, and the city, unless you have fair and equitable tax reform, in the end, we're all still going to be paying. One way or another, you have to pay the bill. If you want roads to drive on, if you want a police force, if you want your mail delivered, if you want homeland security, whatever, you still have to fund all of that stuff. From the top all the way down to the bottom. And it amazes me that in the end, it's the little guy, it's the cities and the residents of those cities who end up paying the bill in the end, and they're still not getting what they should be getting for it. I'll get off my soapbox, and if anybody else wants to jump on me after the meeting about this, have at it. After the meeting, sir.
Can I just ask a quick question of the city? If they're going to put up the information that you talked about, you spoke about, so that we can share it on Facebook?
It'll be on my page.
Good idea. Good idea.
I'll work with Caitlin on
To
that.
see it and to share it would be good.
Right.
It's on the police website too.
Oh, is it?
Sorry.
Okay.
All right, if we have no further business, I would therefore take a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Anyone?
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Rodriguez, a second by Ms. Elmore for adjournment. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
We are adjourned until our next meeting, and we will be glad to welcome all of you back at that meeting. See you then.
Mr. President, post office does not take tax money.
What's that?
Post office does not take any of your.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
Right, they don't.
That's right, my bad. I wasn't trying to slam the post office, believe me. I wasn't trying to slam the post office. Only those who truly know me.